Okay, so I'd like to tell you that Gregg Philipson is our speaker this evening. He's a good friend of mine from over 40 years. I just saw him in Austin and got to see his collection personally. He has a large collection. I'm going to do the introduction. He has assembled a large collection of artifacts, including Jewish-related military artifacts, Holocaust area material, World War II propaganda, and much more. Greg lectures internationally on Jewish-related subjects, including the Holocaust, propaganda, Jewish military history, and many other Jewish-related topics. The Gregg and Michelle Philipson Collection and Archive, which that's called the Philipson Words Collection now, right, Greg? Is that right?
Jewish Heritage Collection.
Yeah. Is regularly exhibited at major museums, universities, college, schools, as well as U.S. military installations. In 2012, former Texas Governor Rick Perry appointed Gregg commissioner to the Texas Holocaust and Genocide Commission. He served under both former Texas Governor Rick Perry and current Governor Greg Abbott. He served for many years as an advisory board member at the Holocaust Museum, Houston. He is a 2019 recipient of the Jewish Veteran Wolfson Award for Outstanding Community Relations, and he's my friend. Gregg has presented to us 3 times before. He's done a presentation, which you can watch on our YouTube channel on Arthur Schick, one about Rube Goldberg, and then another one about Dr. Seuss. Gregg, take it over.
All right, all right. So first of all, I think the nicest part of the introduction was that Spike is my friend. And we have been friends for a long time, and I always appreciate doing something for Spike and the group there. And I'd like to wish you all a good Shabbos. It's important Shabbos this week, as always, but in these very trying times for the Jewish people, these are Shabbats that we all should be together and looking out for each other. So Spike asked me to do a presentation again, and I told him I had a really good collection on the 1939 New York World's Fair. And originally in 1939, when it opened, it was called the Building the World of Tomorrow. And it went into 1940 as well. But one of the things I really wanted to mention about this presentation, I collect, this materials and different events and so on. I try to do it from a real hardcore Judaica perspective. And this is really an important event in the sense that the world is literally on the verge of war. So the fair opens in April of 1939, and as many of you know, September 1st of 1939, the Nazis invaded Poland, and that was the official start of World War II. So this is almost everything you'll see in this presentation, like always, will be from my collection. There are a few other things that I had to borrow images for to make a point. But this is a beautiful image of George Washington in front of the Trilon and Perisphere. And those were the symbols of the world of tomorrow. And there was big stuff going on inside those places. So let's just take a look. You all know that, I don't do a lot of text in my things, but I think there's a few things that we need to cover just from an overview. So the Trilon and Perisphere became the central symbol of the 39 fair. Its image was reproduced by the millions, and I mean by the millions. Go on eBay and search on the 39 World's Fair on a wide range of promotional materials serving as the fairground's focal point. The U.S. Post Office issued a postage stamp on 1 April of 39 depicting the Trilon and Perisphere. And as a stamp collector, I got a nice collection of some of that. We won't do too much of that tonight. The Perisphere was not only a striking feat of architecture from the outside, inside there was an equally stunning exhibit. Democracy, which is what it was called, was a giant diorama of the ideal city of the future, designed by industrial designer Henry Dreyfuss. The exhibit was housed in a space more than 2 times the size of Radio City Music Hall. And if somebody paid 25 cents, visitors viewed the exhibit from 2 rotating balconies dubbed the Magic Carpets, then encircled the model. You'll see a picture of this. Every 6 minutes, a recorded narration would extol the wonders of this utopian city and the lights would dim to mimic nighttime as phosphorescent paint made the building look as they were lighting up from the inside. The narration was accompanied by the theme song Rising Tide by William Grant Sill. So here it is. There's two images, and one you can see I blew up the one on the right. Those are guys inside there building the city, or at least constructing or repairing it. But this is what people would see, and in the one on the left, you can see the lights inside that. Well, it's not really inside, but the phosphorescent paint. Isn't that incredible? There were 44 million visitors. There were many corporate pavilions and 33 country pavilions. And some of the most notable ones we're going to be talking about. It was in Flushing Meadows, Queens, New York, 1,216 acres that were pretty much reused in 1964. That's the fair I attended in New York as a kid, on the same grounds. But it went from April 1 of 1939, April 30th, pardon me, of 1939. The stamp was issued on the first of the month, to October 31st. And then it opened the second season from May to October. And opening day attendance was 206,000 visitors. And that's what the park looked like from an aerial view. Now, it's very important also because it also celebrated the 150th anniversary of the inauguration of George Washington. And for those of you who may not know this, New York City in 1789 was the capital of the United States. So that's why this was redone. So the statue of George Washington, obviously our first president, and his inauguration was a big part of the fair. And there's a lot of tchotchkes and things about that as well. So FDR, I like this picture, and I borrowed this picture, was there at the opening day of the fair. That's what a huge event it was. And if you look closely, you can see Lehman on the left side in the center there, and there was a lot of dignitaries from all over the world, actually. And one of the other points I'd like to make is if anybody like myself was a Boy Scout as a kid, notice the Boy Scouts standing at attention behind the president, along with some military guests behind them. This was very important because they served for both years as guides and people to just help throughout the fairgrounds. So there's even a lot of people that collect just the Boy Scout stuff from the World's Fair. I have a few pieces on it. This is not a photo in my collection, but it gives you an idea of the opening day ceremony. You see the giant Trilon and Perisphere in the background there, and the huge statue of George Washington right in the center there. Really a magnificent image of what the fair was like on opening day. And this was June 10th, a little bit later, but even King George VI and Queen Elizabeth were actually showed up to view the fair, even while the war was pending, certainly even much earlier for Great Britain. So this is just an idea of their motorcade. And this is the king and queen in a little cart. They had these little carts all over. Some of them were actually owned and operated by Greyhound as advertising for taking people throughout the many exhibits and the pavilions at the fair. So I thought this, although I know many of you don't collect stamps, I really like this one. This is an image of the stamp. You can see the logo from the fair. It's a 3-cent U.S. postage stamp, and it's postmarked April 1st, so it's a first day of issue, and it's on a beautiful embossed, that orange color. That's actually embossed on the envelope. But what's really excellent, why I like this one, it's signed by Albert Goldman, who is the postmaster, the Jewish postmaster of New York City at the time of the New York 1939 World's Fair. So that's a nice one to be able to find his name on it. And this just gives you an idea of what it looked like. Mail, New York World's Fair. This was their official letterhead. They had a little Statue of Liberty. You can see that with the NYWF logo underneath it. And just going off to the, advertising the fair to get people to go. I like this slide too. These are there must be a million postcards still floating around on the market for sale. But I only wanted to mention this particular one because it's the Temple of Religion. And it shows the three major religions in the United States. It says erected by lay representatives of the Catholic, Protestant, and Jewish faith as a symbol of the individual belief in God, irrespective of the form of that belief. And it's very important because this is the first of two things you'll see where Jewish citizens, not the government, actually contributed and participated not only in funding, but the design and the materials that were entered into this particular pavilion. I thought you might find this interesting. RCA, David Sarnoff was the chairman of RCA and also a brigadier general in the U.S. Army during World War II. And this image is one of the very first images of the TV, and this is a real wire photo I have in the collection. This is one of the very first introductions of the television to the United States audience. And it was at the fair, and in the RCA obviously was the one introducing this. I also mentioned, and obviously Sarnoff was Jewish, so that's why I highlighted him as not only a brigadier general, but very important running RCA. Although Betty White's not Jewish, she was, I believe, one, if not the first, one of the first people to be broadcast on a television set back in 1939. And we all know her, and she lived a long, wonderful life, and had a wonderful career, great lady. So one of the other things that I really enjoy doing and I really focus on is anything I could do with my wife, Michelle, and my family. This is an original booklet of tickets for the World's Fair that was owned by my Uncle Jerry, who I'm named after him, Gerard Degenstein. This was his 14th birthday, which was November 5th of 1939. And this was his little ticket booklet. I guess he didn't go to use it up completely. There's three left. But it's, it's very chilling because a few years later, on 16th of November, a few days after his 20th birthday, he was killed in action fighting with the 26th Infantry in France with the U.S. Army. So that is probably the most valuable item in my collection for me personally. And I thought you'd get a kick on what was going on around the world. So many countries came out with stamps, postage stamps, for the pavilion, for the World's Fair. And this is an image of the French pavilion. And of course, you can see it says Exposition International in New York, 1939. And it's 2.25 French francs. And you notice the Trilon and Perisphere in the background. But what's even more chilling to me and so nice is that because the French obviously sent over the Statue of Liberty that now resides in New York Harbor, they put that as the very frontest part of the stamp, indicating their relationship with America. And here it is. This is a very nice thing. It's postmarked 1940, I think, this particular one. And notice the stamp. It's the same stamp, but the value is different. So they raised it by 25.25 French francs up to 250 with the exact same stamp. But even in 1940, see the French flag waving there, which is also red, white, and blue. You can't tell that here. It's a really nice postcard mailed in France. Beautiful item. Now, I wanted to get, and I really didn't have much, but do you notice the special face on Electro coming out of Mansfield, Ohio, and Sparko, the dog there? Does anybody recognize that face on the robot? Yeah. So anyway, I really thought it was interesting. I guess that was the primary reason for adding this into this presentation. I have a couple of those pins. They're little tiny pins from Westinghouse advertising Electro, but that is a great picture of the early family of Spike Radway. And I really was shocked because I didn't think he spent a lot of time in Mansfield. But anyway, it's a great picture, and you can see this was, I mean, this is really, think about this. This is in 1940. Think about the technology of pulling this off. So the guys in Westinghouse in Mansfield did an incredible job. Now, when I lived in Pittsburgh for many years, Westinghouse, as you know, is headquartered there. I had no idea about this until pretty recently. So it's really a really interesting thing. These are wire photos that you can find showing Electro and people, how they were marketing this and so on. These were the types of things that were floating around the fair. Notice in the background here, the Boy Scouts. Everybody wanted to be in on the act with Electro. And this is from a magazine. I forget which magazine I pulled this from, but here it is, Hearts of Steel in Robot and Rover. And this was making big news in all the scientific magazines and what have you. So here's a wire photo, and this is everybody smoked back in the day, and it says Joanne Adamitz offers a light to Electro, cigarette smoking Westinghouse mechanical man, which was first exhibited at the New York World's Fair 10 years ago. The 7-foot robot has been brought out of wartime retirement and has been refurbished for an exhibit in the Pittsburgh Exhibition of Industrial Leadership. Through a system of electrical relays, operating motors, levers, gears, and chains, the 260-pound automation can walk, talk, count numbers, smoke, distinguish colors, and salute. Electro responds to commands spoken into a microphone, much like I do with Spike. And anyway, this is dated 1949, and it's an Acme wire photo. Great stuff. Now, this is really great because I had no idea that the Cleveland Museum of Natural History had these huge parades. And I spent a year in Cleveland. I had an apartment downtown for work when I was living in Pittsburgh many years ago. But anyway, look at that robot in the center. Electro, again, even in modern times, sports that same look of a Cleveland individual. It really is incredible. Really is incredible. And that's what made me really want to come back to Cleveland and watch this parade. I'm hoping he's back in it again. I thought if you didn't recognize the face, I made it a little bigger for you. Anyway, I didn't buy this. It was really expensive, the magazine, but I borrowed, I'm not sure, I think I bought the one on the right. But this is how it was marketed. And these magazines all over the place. This is the American Guild of BM&G 1939 convention. It's their official program. And look who's on the front cover there. Electro and it looks very familiar. It's got a real Cleveland connection on that Electro too. But then you could also see Westinghouse. It's very hard to find the Westinghouse ads that actually featured Electro, but this is one, and at the New York World's Fair. So it was quite a hit, and as you can imagine, just blew people away, that technology at that day. And when Spike was here recently, I gifted him this shirt that I found online. And it's a Electro smoking. I couldn't believe that's the image they used. And it's from the Mansfield Memorial Museum back in 2004. And I don't think they're available anymore. It's the only one I could find. But
He's wearing it today.
oh, great. He told me he was going to. I couldn't see. That's great. Thanks for letting me know. But it's an awesome t-shirt. And this I didn't buy, but I think it's a record album. And again, it's got, I just wanted to use the image. I really didn't need this, but everybody wants Electro to be smoking of all things. But it's the cover of a record album called Electro Returns. And I'm not sure where it comes from, Topsy Turvy. I didn't do much research on it, but I thought it was funny, so I put it in here. Now, the other one is Isaac Asimov, who was really into science fiction and all these robots and things. And I believe there's a Cleveland connection here as well. But this little booklet that I have is actually, I didn't really have it as part of this collection. I have it as a part of Joe Bonomo, who's um, if you ever ate Bonomo's Turkish taffy, that family, he was a silent movie star, a stunt man, a strong man, had a whole business of health related bodybuilding things, and of course the taffy and all that kind of good stuff. And this is one of his publications from Bonomo Publishing. I did a lot of different things. So that's where that resides, is in my Bonomo collection. But I thought it was kind of cool, and it's a very unusual piece about Isaac Asimov. And two other guys that obviously you all know, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, the creators of Superman and so much more. I didn't buy this magazine. If I can find a good one, if you can find one that's beat up, they're like $1,100 and they're really in demand. And there's a number of them around. Some go for $2,000, $3,000. So this picture of Siegel and Schuster comes from my a different collection also. But because they created this World's Fair comic in 1940, I wanted to include it in case you didn't know that these guys really did tremendous work, and they were political cartoonists. You can see the picture that they're drawing holding up together. That shows Superman with Hitler and I don't know if it's Tojo or Mussolini. I can't, the pictures, I can't see it right now. But anyway, it's a real serious item, and they did a great job in presenting a very positive spin on American propaganda against the Axis powers. Now, back to Westinghouse for a minute. This is something in my collection. This is a NIMChamp token. It's a little metal token. There's one currently on eBay. I don't remember what I paid for this, but it was nothing near that. There's one on eBay for like $345. And that token was given to you in the 1940, I believe, World's Fair. And that is the NIM computer, also manufactured by Westinghouse, that if you could beat the computer with a series of questions and answers and that sort of thing, it would spit out one of these NIM tokens. So it's a really nice, that's a really nice piece. It's a winner's token. And you can see how it almost looks like something like one of the machines out of Young Frankenstein, the movie. But it's pretty cool. And the tokens are, they're not readily available. Now, getting more into the fair itself, this is a sheet of what we call poster stamps, and this is a full sheet. These were like little things like Christmas seals or a variety of things. Many of you have seen the types of labels, Cinderella's, poster stamps, that's what they're known as, that Arthur Schick created for many different organizations, Jewish war veterans, Emergency Committee to Save the Jewish People of Europe, American Federation of Polish Jews, and so on. They were fundraising items. Well, these were just souvenirs. These aren't postage stamps in any way. And there are a couple of them on here that we'll pay special attention to, but you could see that for the various pavilions, you can see George Washington on one and some other ones that we'll talk about very specifically. So first, I want to get into the Polish pavilion. And this pavilion was really important because obviously in a number of months down the road, they're going to be invaded by the Nazis. So here's the Polish pavilion on the verge of war. And we don't have to read all this text. Take it from me that that beautiful structure on the front was the entrance into a museum of contemporary Polish paintings, monuments, all sorts of costumes, furniture. They brought the works over to show Poland as this progressive, wonderful country, which, of course, you also know housed the largest Jewish population in Europe, and obviously the largest number of murdered individuals at the end of the Holocaust. So anyway, it was really something. The Yagawa, I think that's how you pronounce that in Polish or something similar. That statue was incredible. It was all about Polish history and so on. And that monument, I'm not sure if it's there. Last time I put this together, it was still in Central Park, but that statue in front of the Polish pavilion by Mayor LaGuardia was actually put into Central Park. So this was an amazing feat. And you could see that the world of tomorrow, they're showing George Washington in 1789. And then who do you see off to the right? A famous Polish general, an American general in the Revolutionary War, Kazimierz Pulaski. And it's very important. Arthur Szyk, that you all know, I have stuff in that collection that he did two different images of Pulaski, but it's just showing the Polish-American friendship and how the Poles really were vital and had so many people participating in the American Revolution. So it's a nice postcard just kind of depicting that. You see the Polish pavilion in the center with the Polish flags flying in the courtyard. So here is something that is not so often seen. It's a thick hardbound catalog from the Polish pavilion at the World's Fair in 1939. This one is in English, and one of the most important parts about this is our dear friend, and as you know, I'm a very astute collector of materials by Arthur Szyk, was exhibiting at the opening of the 1939 New York World's Fair. Now, I don't know that he was there because this is the time he was in London working on his famous Haggadah. And that's the reason he didn't get caught up in the Holocaust in the sense of being captured and sent off to his demise. His mother was still in Łódź, Poland. He was actually in London working on the Haggadah. So in some regards, you could say that saved his life. But this is exactly in this book. It says miniatures by Arthur, in Polish, it's Artur Szyk, and it gives you an idea. And these are all American patriotic types of things. You see, and I have all of these, not the originals, but the originals I believe were given to FDR by the Polish ambassador to the United States. But you can see Woodrow Wilson, the president, is on there. And so on. And what it does have is and also I was able to find, I've only seen two of these. One was in really bad shape, but I did buy this one. This is the exact same catalog in Polish, and it's a rare piece. This is a beauty, and I was very lucky to get my hands on that one. But this is the only image of Arthur Szyk's works. So this is Kosciuszko, another famous Polish military guy, and he was actually instrumental in the defense of West Point and the battle at Saratoga. So this guy is a true American hero. He was Polish-Lithuanian nationality, wasn't Jewish, but he was a hero and ended up going back and fought for Poland and Lithuania. A really impressive military background, but also a real contributor to a couple of major battles for the American Revolution. And that is a full color image right from the catalog. So it gives you an idea of how important Arthur Szyk's work were, that they would not only have an exhibit, but even putting this color image of the original art in in the catalog. Now, I wanted to talk about some things here. So we know that, you have to wonder, did Poland really know something was coming or whatever? I have no idea. Here it says, win a free trip to Poland. It costs nothing to enter this simple, easy, fast, and any contest. 30 prizes. Will you be the lucky one to win a free trip to Poland? So it's Polish State Railways, okay? Now check this out. Look when the trip is. September 1st of 1939. Can you imagine? And I actually, if you can believe it, found a second one. I actually own two of these original little, I guess, little brochures or whatever. Winners of trips to Poland may choose to go anytime in 1939 or in 1940. I suspect that was nobody took that trip. So anyway, other types of things. So these were booklets that came out, American Polish participation. again, showing this deep connection to America and the revolution. So you can see who's prominent on the image on the cover is George Washington. There's their pavilion, both flags, and you can see the American flag waving there, and it just says the Polish pavilion. And inside, there's an advertisement. It says the American Polish participation, Polish Day, October 14th. So think about this, October 14th of 1939, 34 days, 44 days after the start of World War II. It was supposed to be Polish Day at the World's Fair. So I thought that was interesting, but I got all excited when I saw that ad because I actually owned the pin. And that is a doozy. That's pretty scarce. It's Polish Day, October 14th. You see the pavilion on there. And it's really unbelievable. You can imagine what the people were so lucky, I guess, to be working at the fair, their delegation versus being there as the Nazis invaded a month earlier. These are a bunch of tchotchkes that I love collecting. There's a Polish pavilion. Those are cigarettes. You can see the Polish eagle on there, or falcon. And you can also see that's a big medallion with the Polish pavilion on it. You can see it from the side with the famous king statue out front. And these are all different little things from the pavilion, a bookmark and so on. All tchotchkes you could buy at the fair. One thing, do you see the one with the Nir Tamid? That actually is from a later one. We're going to look at that, the Eternal Light there. That shouldn't have been on this slide, but I didn't want to redo it. Other things that were available in the day, you know what the Viewmasters were, where you put the slide down into the deal and, you clicked it and it moved it around that little round disc with the slides on it. Well, this was a little different. This was called Pathgrams, and it was designed, it's a tiny little thing that you put up to your eye with that little yellow knob that you turn. And you see on the far right, that's a roll of film for that. And it's really tiny. That's about the size of it. And I bought some just to try it. And sure enough, the Polish pavilion was actually on one of the slides. So a friend of mine that's a PhD from Kodak, my good friend from Shul and my neighbor, he was able to reproduce that the actual film there for me. It's not real big, but you get an idea of the picture below. Kind of fun stuff. This is right from my collection. So this is an original photo album, and it's called Warsaw Falling. Hitler's Germany invaded, as we know, on September 1st. And here's what's in here. These are Polish women named right there, and it's the American Warsaw Club in New York City is where they're staying. So they must have had rooms for people. This is 10 days after the start of the war. It's dated, all done for us. These are pictures from the album. That's their writing. And look what it says, Warsaw Falling, on the newspaper she's reading. So you can imagine if they have, which I'm sure, families back home and so on. These are pictures directly from the album of Poles visiting the World Fair and what they're up against. So in 1940, there's lots of pictures of the fair from 39. It was all produced, obviously, before the war started. After the war started, they came out with a Republic of Poland exhibition at the fair. And this is an envelope on the top, and it says war, ruins. And on the back, it says a set of photographic reproductions showing the destruction of Poland. So now that's what they're showing at the fair. And I have a bunch of the cards. I have a complete set. I'm just going to show you a couple. You can see on the back, it says World's Fair of 1940 in small print, but these are either an artist or a real thing. Look at the refugees, I suspect mostly Jews, being rounded up. You see the rail car, the Nazis there, dead victim on the rail tracks and so on. The bottom picture denotes the people taken out of their homes or the damage from Warsaw. This is what was salvaged, but right as the Nazis did their blitzkrieg into Poland. So this is how the fair turned in 1940. These are two pillow shams. They're silk pillow shams I have of the from the fair. They're very unusual, and I don't know. I picked up a set of them somewhere one time, but just different things, showing the Polish pavilion and what have you. And this one, we do know for a fact that the restaurant, the Polish restaurant, was not kosher. Look at the menu. Oh, I don't know. Steak of Polish imported ham, pork cutlet, well, I guess a duck might be okay. But anyway, this is how they advertised, their restaurants. Almost every country pavilion had a restaurant of some sort, and these are just matchbook covers. What it was like, and one of someplace along the line on May 18th of 1939, that was the menu. I guess if anything of interest. The prices were really, really low, $1.25 for a nice big meal. So here we go. Now, this is an original paper. If you can imagine this, there were two daily newspapers published by the fair every day. They weren't huge papers, but they were, 4 to 6 pages. And on October 14th, the same day as Polish Day, right? We saw that on that pin. And in the advertisement, look at this, 50,000 at attention as the Polish nation is honored. So while and there's the picture of the famous king at the front of the Polish pavilion. So these kinds of things, they call it ephemera, meant to be used for the day, but they really are historically significant from the standpoint of watching how the world reacted here in America, even at a fair, right? An industrial and trade and um, uh, educational fair. It's amazing, and this is what they had to deal with as the war began. Now, this is my fave, other than the Arthur Schick part. This is really one of the real cruxes of this collection. So there was a Jewish Palestine pavilion at the fair. And I don't want to keep mentioning, but I'd like you to keep in mind, as we see all the world and the politics today, I don't get into politics. I just present what's here and real documents and things. But it is interesting that everything Jewish also is called Palestine. So even though we called, or at least Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel, it was all Palestine. So I find that a little bit interesting in today's world. But the Jewish Palestine Pavilion introduced the world to the concept of a modern Jewish state, which a decade later became Israel. The pavilion featured a monumental hammered copper relief sculpture on its facade titled "The Scholar, the Laborer, and the Toiler of the Soil" by noted Art Deco sculptor Maurice Ascalon. And one of the interesting things I thought about Ascalon, it says Eretz Yisrael under them. That's the entrance into the Jewish Palestine Pavilion. And it's interesting because that's kind of a little bit of maybe Theodore Herzl's theory on, working the land and then labor and so on. So I think it's a very Zionist message in the form of sculpting. You can see at the World's Fair a monument to Zionist achievements in Eretz Yisrael. This is a beautiful piece, seldom seen. And inside, this is what it is. It's the Zionist Organization of America. You can see Chaim Weizmann, who was the president of the World Zionist Congress, and not Israel yet, so he had no political connection. Obviously, Theodor Herzl, the father of modern Zionism. And who's down at the bottom there? Albert Einstein. And we'll see that picture again. But it has to do, he worked very closely along with other people that we'll see with Weizmann regarding the Balfour Declaration and other things. So it's a remarkable piece when you look at this and what was being produced, a pro Eretz Yisrael document in 1939. Now, I don't know if a lot of you know Meyer Wieskel. He was very close. I think he at one time was the personal assistant to Chaim Weizmann, but one of the leaders of the Zionist Organization of America and the head of the Jewish Palestine Pavilion at the 39 and 40 World's Fairs. What's really important is, and this is essential, like we talked earlier about the temple of religion, and Jewish people, along with other denominations of Protestants and Catholics, actually paid to have that built. Well, Jewish people in America were completely responsible for building this unbelievable, beautiful pavilion in the national where all the country pavilions were. So obviously, British controlled Palestine. It was occupied by the British, and so it was done and built by all the Zionist organizations in America to promote Israel, and hopefully with the Balfour Declaration and other things, to get Israeli independence. So here you see he returns from a trip to Palestine, New York. And these are all in my collection. Meyer Weigselt, director of the Palestine Pavilion at the fair, is pictured aboard the SS Queen Mary as he arrived here this morning on a return trip from Palestine. He's noted for his production of Max Reinhardt's Eternal Road, is in charge of the pavilion building at the fair. His trip to the Holy Land was for the sole purpose of checking up on the building of the Palestine Pavilion exhibits and to arrange for artistic talent. And this is 1938. And here you can see, this is a great photo in the collection. It's a model. So here you have a rendering of the Palestine exhibit for the fair, and it tells you the architects were Arya El-Hanani, and so on. And it's a great little image. And of course, you can see Eshkelon's work above the front entrance. And this is how I ran across this, I'm not sure, but look at this. This is Eshkelon actually making the sculptures. And in the right, you can see he's got a charcoal image of the next one that he's going to be working on. And this one is dated December 23rd of 1938. And it says he's working for the Levant Fair Studios to put the finishing touches on the statue of Isaiah, biblical prophet of the face of the Jewish Palestine Pavilion. Unbelievable stuff. So you really see the guy at work prior to the pavilion opening. And then Lord Robert Cecil. Now, this is a British guy, royalty or nobility, I guess, whatever you would call it. And he worked very closely with Chaim Weizmann, and also was a proponent of the Balfour Declaration and a real friend of the Jewish people, and was a very big supporter of the creation of the State of Israel. And you can see this is a bust by Zev Ben-Zvi, produced this work, and the exhibit is inside the exhibit in New York. It's incredible stuff, so we get to see what was really there and how it was made. These are a lot of interesting books that were published. You can see the 12 tribes in the background, the Palestine book, Jewish Palestine Pavilion of the Fair, and they had inside this, you would see the spirit of the pavilion. It talks about all kinds of stuff. You see artisans working, creating the interior of the pavilion, and so on. And you can see that Weigselt wrote these articles and was really big on the marketing of the fair. Now, this I didn't know about, so everybody has to give credit to Spike for this one. This plaque with its eternal light had been crafted in Israel and had been on display in the Jewish Palestine Pavilion in 1939. Didn't know it. 1940 World's Fair in New York, Minnie Klausner, mother of Temple member Nathan Klausner, a manufacturer and Zionist leader who died in June of 1940. The World's Fair closed on the 27th of October in 40 at the request of Rabbi Hillel Silver. And by the way, I have a large collection on Rabbi Silver. And I just bought a really interesting wire photo of him from 1933 regarding trying to boycott Nazi products, German products in America. But anyway, it says Nathan Klausner made a gift to the temple to cover the cost of obtaining the plaque and installing it in the wall at the rear of the sanctuary, where it can be seen today. So thank you, Spike, because that is a really beautiful piece, a great piece of Cleveland and Jewish history. So if you're not aware of that, I think I'd want to go see it.
It is at the Maltz Performing Arts Center now. with the former Silver Temple.
Yeah, thank you. Spike told me that. It's wonderful. I'm so glad to hear that. That's really great news to preserve this kind of stuff. It's remarkable. Well, anyway, this is not really a brochure. It's a fairly large poster that had been folded. And it says the Jewish Palestine Pavilion, join the ranks of its supporters, help it bring its message to millions more. So remember, the whole pavilion was built with money from American Jews, period. All American Jews. It was situated in the pavilion, the nation's pavilion. It was the only one that wasn't a nation, if you will, independent. It was, obviously occupied by the British, and it was maintained by Jewish Americans. So this is a very, very rare piece, and I made it larger. It says this is what's at the bottom on the front. It says when visiting the New York World's Fair, don't fail to view the Palestine exhibit, a symbol of Jewish creative labor in Palestine and its inconvertible answer to the challenge of the insidious propaganda of prejudice mongers. Think about that. This is 1939, all over America. There's so much anti-Jewish stuff going on all over the globe, right? The Nazis are full-blown power, taking over Europe. And it says, incontrovertible answer to the challenge of the insidious propaganda of prejudice mongers. The Palestine Pavilion was built by the Jews of America and being maintained as well as being maintained by the Palestine Pavilion Maintenance Fund. Its beauty and effective portrayal of Jewish Palestine carry a message to all who believe in democracy and social justice. That is a really, really powerful message. I mean, they're telling you what's on the horizon right there. And we better get our act together and find a safe haven. So it's on the back. Here's what it looks like. It's too much text to read here, but an appeal to the Jews of America, send in a New Year gift to the Palestine Pavilion. So it's a fundraising document. So the image on the right, I'm not sure. That may be off a postcard I have, a modern postcard. It's an iconic image. You can find that a lot of places. However, on the left-hand side, this is probably I don't know, bigger than an 8 by 10 original advertisement cut from a newspaper. Its original one is in the collection here. It says your answer. Dedication of the Jewish Palestine Pavilion by Albert Einstein. Think about that. Sunday, May 28th at 2, Court of Peace, New York World's Fair, and a transatlantic address by Chaim Weizmann, President, Jewish Agency for Palestine. We shall build where others seek to destroy. National Emergency Committee for Palestine. One of 100 different organizations, whether it be for the World Fair, to get people out of Europe, and to save Jewish people everywhere. But it's the only one of these I've ever seen, and it's really meaningful because it's an ad for the opening of the pavilion. This is another brochure. This was a brochure, I guess, for the opening. And you can see a smattering of different articles. British Palestine policy blasted at Fair Pavilion. Famous Jewish. There's what's his name, Lehman at the top over there on the right. And you see Escalon's images, the Zionist images, of course. And there's the image of Einstein at the bottom. So it's an incredible, interesting piece. Helps its message reach millions, your pavilion. So it was really designed to let people know what was going on in Palestine, what Jewish people were doing to enhance it there, and so on. So if you're looking for Zionist material, boy, I'm telling you, 39 World's Fair was it. Now, it's also interesting, it's a philatelic piece of stamp collecting item. This is a modern postcard of that image, but you'll notice in 1997, the country of Uruguay came out with a $7.50 stamp of Einstein with his famous, formula E equals MC square. And so there people, as you can imagine, still honor Einstein all the time. But I thought this was kind of an interesting one because somebody in in Uruguay actually used that postcard of the opening of the fair. And Nicaragua, of all places, put out a stamp celebrating his 100 years of his birth. And notice that it's not just about Einstein. There's the Trilon and Perisphere, and it says Albert Einstein. His death is celebrating the thing at 1939. And so it's actually commemorating him and the World's Fair. So a century of his life. Amazing stamp. I imagine they're around. I don't think it's real rare, but it is interesting that it is associated with the fair. And then you can find things like this. This is the first day of issue of the stamp, but somebody has taken a tiny photo. That's a real photo attached to the it says it's called the Palestine Exhibits Building, or the Jewish Palestine Pavilion, at the fair. So I thought that was kind of cute. And here's some other ones. You can see this is from that big sheet of poster stamps I showed you earlier. This is, they call it the Palestine Pavilion. So there's another interesting take on it. That's the poster stamp from 1939. Do you notice that very light 1940 date that was put on afterwards so they could reuse those and make it a collector's item for 1940? It's called an overprint. And it's very hard to find those. I was lucky to get that one. But then you see again another little image of the Palestine Pavilion on that other envelope. The only reason I show this is from 1942. And obviously the fair is long gone. We're involved in the war, everything. And somebody was still using one of those Palestine Pavilion little poster labels on the back of a piece of mail from Long Branch, New Jersey. And you can see it was put on at that time. It has the postmark running through it, which means that it's somebody didn't stick it on later to make it collectible. Anyway, here's another couple of very interesting cards. And these are little contributing member cards for the Jewish Palestine exhibit at the New York World's Fair. And as you can see, it's called Eretz Yisrael, both in English and Hebrew, at the New York World's Fair. This certifies that the holder and this certificate has contributed of the certificate 25 cents for the maintenance of the pavilion. And I don't see a lot of these floating around. These are two different ones. And this is what they would be selling all around the country, trying to raise money for the fair. And here's another one. This is Jewish Palestine Participation, the Board of Directors. You obviously see Meyer Wigzell at the bottom, but you might recognize some other people. I don't recognize too many of those people there. But anyway, Stephen Wise is the honorary president, but he was, one of the main Zionists, Rabbi Wise. And again, very rare, I should say, seldom seen images from the World's Fair. This has taken me a long time to put this collection together. Here's something from the Jewish National Fund. So the JNF was in on it. They create new forms of life. That's what it says on the top. And these are brochures trying to get people to donate into a blue box, the JNF tzedakah boxes, for the fair. Remarkable stuff. And here's the inside of that particular brochure. Your help is needed to make available more land for more people in Eretz Yisrael. And it's kind of a neat thing, neat item. Many of you have probably heard of the United Palestine Appeal. And I have some Arthur Schick stuff on that, but this is a brochure specifically for the New York World's Fair. So see the colorful, dramatic story of Palestine at the Palestine Pavilion. It's a seldom seen brochure, again, just advertising another organization doing fundraising. And of course, one of the greatest organizations for all of us is Hadassah, the Women's Zionist Organization. And these are postcards from the fair in 1939 and 1940. You can see the different dates on the right-hand side of what was going on with Hadassah, advertising all the incredible work and cutting-edge work on hospitals and healthcare and caring for the sick that they were doing. Now, this particular postcard I really like. There were so many postcards. You can find all of this stuff on eBay, but this one is really terrific because I love the Zionist flag. I have one of those over the one of our fireplaces downstairs, an original Zionist flag, pre-1948. And you can see that. Obviously, this is 1939. It's a artist rendering, but you can see Escalon's sculpture over the entrance and people coming and going. But it's a beautiful postcard, and I love it because of the Zionist flag there. This is not a postcard. These are tiny little cards that come in this packet. And it was interesting. They're called colored miniatures. And one of them, when I bought the pack, I wasn't sure. And luckily for me, one of them was the Palestine Exhibits Building, as you can see here with the Trilon and Perisphere in the background. It's a nice, another nice little tchotchke from the fair that you don't see too often. Now, this one I think is really important. This is a card seldom seen, and it's the pavilion all lit up at night. And it's a rendering, you can tell by the images and so on. But what I thought was most interesting as a collector, I like to see where cards were mailed and when and from where. And here's one from September 19th of 1939 at the World's Fair. And what does that mean? That's 19 days after the start of World War II. And that's what people are doing in America. Hi, Auntie and Unc, living the life of Riley here. Free board and room. Fare is stupendous. Gordon sends it to somebody in Lawrence, Massachusetts. So it's unbelievable. The world I mean, literally has gone berserk over in Europe, and this is what's happening in America. It was really interesting, I thought, from a philatelic standpoint. This one is the only one of these I've seen because it has the overprint for the Palestine House Incorporated, the American Center for Palestine Products. Visit our New York office at 10 West 28th Street. And not only does it have their address on these cards, which you can see it's a kind of a standard postcard, but they even have a sticker for the Palestine House, which is, you know, their company selling these goods. So that was rare enough. But then what did I find? I found something sold at the Palestine House, a filigree sterling silver necklace in its original box with the sticker on it. This one's a doozy. And I just thought it was really interesting. This is what somebody would go and perhaps purchase. I'm sure that wasn't inexpensive in the day, but a beautiful item from the Jewish Palestine Pavilion gift shop. And here, this is the near tummy, the Eternal Light. That's a pin from the Jewish Palestine Pavilion. And you can see in the top it says Eretz Yisrael. And notice outside you see the Zionist flag, the early Israeli flag on the right. But notice where it says Cafe Tel Aviv. This is the restaurant associated with the Jewish Palestine Pavilion. Notice the logo above Tel in Tel Aviv. And that's what's on this pin that I have. They're not easily found. They're a little pricey, but it's really a beautiful item from the Jewish Palestine Pavilion. And of course, you see everybody had matchbooks, but notice what the image is on the matchbook cover. Ashkelon's three sculpting. Anyway, this is another beautiful item from our collection. This is the Jewish Palestine Pavilion. This is a silk little hanky. And out of all the places and things that you could put on there, you see airplanes and American flags and everything. If you look at the bottom left, there's the Palestine building. And I blew it up for you here. You notice it's even got the sculptures on top of the entrance there. And somehow somebody put the Palestine building on there. It's really beautiful and it's colorful and it's in mint condition, actually. So nice item, very unusual item. Now, National Hadassah Day at the Jewish Palestine Pavilion. This is May 22nd of 1940. And then B'nai B'rith was having a function on May 28th. You could see even cheaper than the Polish restaurant, Cafe Tel Aviv, had lunch for 65 cents and dinner for $1. And you can see the National Hadassah Day. The program was at the Temple of Religion. And Mrs. David de Solapool, famous, right, in the Jewish history, national president, and Dr. Israel Goldstein, chairman of the board of directors. They had everybody showed up at these things at the fair. But the thing I really thought that was interesting is if you look at this thing on 7 p.m. at the bottom, a debate between Bucknell and New York University teams on resolved that the U.S. should immediately declare war against the Axis powers at Assembly Hall. Can you imagine being at that debate? So this is 1940. It's taken us another year and a half, it looks like, by the time we're even going to be in the war. That must have been one hell of a debate, is all I can say. But nonetheless, that's what they were doing, and college students to boot. So here's another thing that was probably sold at the Palestine product store. Notice the flags. One of them, the one on the very far left, is the flag of the World's Fair. That's their logo flag. But notice the third one from the left. That's a Zionist flag along with these other countries. And this particular necklace I have, what do you call it? Around your wrist. Bracelet. I couldn't, thank you. I couldn't think of that word. Isn't that awful? This particular bracelet, I have two. This one is in mint condition. And I blew this. This is what it looks like on the back, but you can even see it says Palestine on that. You can find them. They float around, usually not in great condition, but you might be able to find one if you're interested. I have a couple of pieces from a set of this china, and I've never seen this. Not saying it doesn't exist. I have not seen it other than the couple of pieces I have in the collection. This is one of them. It's a candy dish or whatever, a little dish of some sort. Must have been sold at that, the Palestine product store. And it says New York World's Fair. And there it is, plain as day in mint condition, glazed china. Really beautiful piece, very unusual. And you see the two in the center, the Zadie and the Bubby. That is, you can see he's holding a tallis, and she has a prayer book with a Mogen David on the cover. And so these were things sold at the Jewish Palestine Pavilion. It's made out of that Siraka wood. They're kind of lightweight. And the other ones, I have no idea what pavilion that's from, but I found a lot of those at one time and bought them. So they're really kind of cute. And then my wife said, well, it was from Poland in 1939 or Palestine 1939 somewhere. We better clear out the whole shtetl. So we ended up, and you'll have to pardon me, I have to stand up from sitting, so I just got a cramp in my leg. That's a bit embarrassing, but bear with me, please. Anyway, so they're really cute. And actually, you see this one right here? Can you see my cursor or no? Right there, those are ceramic. There's a pair that were made modern. Somebody made it. They're hollow ceramics. And then I think it's these two here. So, no, this guy back here. Those two are plastic. So somebody has reproduced these, and I buy them whenever I can. They make great gifts for weddings and bar mitzvahs and stuff like that, kind of fun stuff. But anyway, we cleaned out the shtetl there, and this is a working press pass from the Jewish Daily Forward in 1940. This is, I've never seen another one of these, but it's kind of good because, it has, again, a real direct Jewish connection to the fair. And it wasn't, it's important, very, very important. And this photo, oh, I love this photo. So these are two young Zionist women with the American and the Zionist flag in front of the pavilion. But look at the statue that's smack in the middle, our famous Theodor Herzl. And it says this bust of Dr. Herzl, founder of modern Zionism, will be unveiled today, Thursday, 25 July, at a memorial service at the Palestine Pavilion at the World's Fair 40. During an entire week, a special guard of honor of Zionist youth will watch over the statue in the patio of the pavilion. and it tells you who these women are, these young women. Leaders of Junior Hadassah. Can you imagine this? This is how much stuff. And this photo is from Leo Casey, Director of Publicity for the fair. Unbelievable. It's a real gem in the collection. And this is a Jewish Palestine Pavilion, a catalog of what's going on. It's from, it's showing September 27th till the fair closed in October of 1940. So just, more great stuff of what was happening, and a lot of famous people exhibiting there, as you could see. Now, this, as we wind down, this is a photo from my friend David Matlow of Toronto. He has the largest Herzl collection in the world, and he exhibits all the time. He's a wonderful guy. And he sent me this picture. This is from the Spertus Museum in Chicago. And that's where these giant sculptures are right now. And they are working, trying to get them back to Israel. And it's I don't think it's done yet. This is from a while ago, but it's a monumental task. And obviously right now, Israel has its handful in other areas, not worrying about getting sculptures back. So anyway, it is interesting that those originals are still around, and they are in safekeeping in Chicago. I thought just to wind up a couple of other pavilions, the Jewish Palestine Pavilion, the Polish Pavilion are showing such wonderful things. Iraq, they're hawking dates. Okay, so there's a nice little matchbook. Not much going on there. And then these are some of the fun things that you would see. So Morris Jess Midget Town was a huge attraction there. And it wasn't something demeaning. It was really a terrific thing. You can see the group of little people there and so on. They had this is from my collection. They're, again, not postage stamps, but much like Arthur Schick stuff, little fundraisers and so on. So that was a really big attraction. That's the little kind of brochure, if you will. And then one of my favorite postcards from that is from 1940. And I'm not sure if you recognize anybody in that picture. So it's amazing what you can go back and find, and the chances of somebody named Spike in 1940 at the fair. I spent a fortune on this postcard. It's one of the most rare items in our collection. Now, some of you may be aware of Billy Rose, famous producer of music, theater, so many different things, a super wealthy guy. He had this Billy Rose's Aquacade. It was a huge aquatic show at the fair. And that's there. I have the program from 1940. It's almost exactly the same, a few changes inside. But that's a postcard of the stage. And you can see in the top center there, that's all water. And here's what it looked like. This is a real photo, not a rendering of the show. And it was a major production, just like you'd see in the movies. Can you see in the kind of the left side there, you can see the precision swimmers in the water. There's two groups well, actually, they're all over in there. But this was a remarkable show, and another Jewish connection to the World's Fair. This is a token, if you will. A lot of people drilled holes in them to make them so they could wear them as a necklace or on a chain, if you will. And it's Billy Rose's Aquacade. And he had, just incredible Olympic swimmers there. It was a real production. So this is Yours for a Song. Words by Billy Rose and Ted Fetter. Music by Dana Seuss. And but it's Billy Rose's Aquacade at the World's Fair, even the music. So this guy was a maniac. And one of the things I really liked about him is that after the fair, years later, he built a sculpture garden, or paid to have, and brought sculptures into Jerusalem. You can see the Knesset up there. And so this is the art garden built by Billy Rose in Jerusalem. Remarkable. And some of the other pavilions that were there, like the Czechoslovakia pavilion, so they got overrun really early. And this coin from the collection, this is, notice on those pillars, it reminds me of Samson, if you will. I don't know who the artist, if that was what he had in mind, but notice the swastikas on those pillars with the snakes around it. And that's a Czech fighter with his family, a woman with an infant and a young boy hugging him. So that's how the Nazis were, what they were doing to Czechoslovakia, enslaving them. And you could see these different things. Net proceeds contribute toward the maintenance of the Czechoslovak pavilion. Obviously, they must have been broke at that time. And this is really important. Nowhere to be found was a German pavilion at the 1939 or 1940 World's Fair. And I bought this little Hohner harmonica that says made in Germany. It's the only thing I can find, but it says on the box, as you can see, German pavilion at the New York World's Fair. So I've got to research more about the history of this, but I suspect Hohner, which is the largest harmonica manufacturing in the world, I suspect, that they may have produced this in anticipation of a German pavilion, and they must have backed out knowing full well what they were up to. But I just thought this was interesting, but Germany was not at the fair. However, this Mumser was at the fair. Italy had, they had already gone in 1930s. They were already way earlier than 39. They had invaded and were slaughtering the Ethiopian people and other places where they had colonized. So they were well into it. We have a pretty good fascist Italy collection, but this is just one little piece. This is what the Italian pavilion looked like. They didn't seem to care that that they were already at war and doing stuff. This guy was real neurotic. Anyway, one of the other things that really upsets me about the fair was this. Now, in 1939, there was a Japanese pavilion. And many of you know that in the 1930s, the Japanese had already enslaved a lot of Asia. They were murdering people in Manchuria, in northern China. I've lectured about the Holocaust there. I was at one of the places where it's called the Japanese Unit 731 Criminal Evidence Museum, where they did their biological and chemical warfare experiments against the Chinese civilians. We know what they did in the Philippines and Korea, in what today is Vietnam and Burma and so on. Brutal. What they did to our prisoners and other prisoners of war, it's monumental. It's beyond psycho. But anyway, at the pavilion in 1939, they're really feeding us a line of BS, dedicated to eternal peace and friendship between America and Japan. And this is one of their postcards. You see the rising sun flag, the flame of friendship, this brochure. And you notice that little poster stamp that they put out, and I'll show it to you here. Visit the Japanese pavilion at the World's Fair. You see that Liberty Bell? They made a Liberty Bell out of pearls and diamonds worth $1 million at that time. And here they know full well what's coming. They know full well. So here, these are the only two issues of this paper I've ever seen. And fortunately, I picked them both up. It's the Japanese American Review. Japan's pavilion at the World's Fair reopened officially, this is 1940 now, on the theme of long U.S.-Tokyo friendship. June of 1940. What's happening 18 months later? Pearl Harbor. These guys knew exactly what was coming, and they were the greatest propaganda artists. Look at World's Fair features Japan. This is in a Japanese propaganda newspaper printed right here in America. And this one is July 27th of 40, Leaders in New Tokyo Cabinet. On the bottom, it's Tojo. That's the guy that was actually hung by MacArthur. This is still more stuff about the Japanese and all their propaganda, knowing full well what they were going to do at Pearl Harbor. And just real quick to wind up, Russia today, the Soviet Union, which was our ally, but again, another psycho guy. They had a huge exhibit there. A lot of these things had to close up in 1940. This one I thought was interesting from Curacao. It's an interesting brochure, but it says it talks about an interesting Jewish colony Whenever democratic Holland collided with Portugal and Spain, Jews, mostly Portuguese and Spanish, found a safe haven. So I thought this was a rather unusual thing about the fair, with another very serious Jewish connection. For those of you that don't know, there was an actual Bundist, a Nazi, an American Nazi, was questioned about a bombing at the World's Fair in New York in 1940, about a month before it closed. Just a little information about that. Nazis were already doing clandestine stuff here. And this was another thing, another paper from October 19th of 40, right before the fair closed. Polish American opens a 2-day festival. You can see Tom Connolly from Texas and General John Lejeune, Camp Lejeune in California. Douglas Fairbanks Jr. was there. I don't know if you know, he was Jewish. Coming events were the Jewish National Workers Alliance, and there's an ad for the Cafe Tel Aviv. And to wrap it up, my friend David Matlow colorized this photo for me with that flag, and I just think that is such a chilling, telling photo of America, of Israel, of Judaism. I just think it's a beautiful slide to end on. So I know I probably went over my time, but I hope you found it interesting. And if anybody needs, we have so many different collections. If you're looking for something, feel free to reach out. If you don't write this down, Spike has our address, phone number. You're all welcome to contact me, and I'm delighted to be with you all here again. Not sure what time it is, but if we have time for questions, I'd be delighted to take some.
I don't think we've run out of time for questions, Greg.
Okay.
So I just want to at least tell all my friends here, if your partner collects more things than you think they should, you could always compare them to Greg. Thank you very much, Greg. That was great. I appreciate that. You have a really nice collection.
Thank you, everybody. See you all soon. Shabbat.